Hello, this is Matthew Thrift, one of the brokers in charge of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices C and Joyner Realtors. Here in the upstate of South Carolina, I broker the Simpsonville and Greer offices, and today we're going to be discussing the MLS Policy 8.0, otherwise known as a Clear Cooperation Policy, which will go into effect on May 1st, 2020. We're going to discuss everything about the policy itself, what you can, what you can't do, things to stay away from, and even how to do it. So sit back, relax, let's go. I want to read to you the MLS Policy 8.0, which was adopted by the National Association of Realtors back in November of 2019. This policy goes into effect on May 1st, 2020. So let's read it together so we all understand. It says, within one business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing broker must submit the listing to the MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. Public marketing includes, but is not limited to, flyers displayed in windows, yard signs, digital marketing on public-facing websites, brokerage website displays, including IDX or Internet Data Exchange, and VOW, which is virtual office websites. Digital communications marketing, for example, email blasts, multi-brokerage listing sharing networks, and applications available to the general public. And again, it was adopted in November 2019. Now that's the rule. So we need to break down this rule. Okay, it's pretty clear what you can't do. Let's talk about it, the whole thing of why and everything else. So what exactly is an MLS exempt listing or office exclusive listing? Well, it's simple. It's nothing more than having a listing agreement with a seller that does not want their property on the multiple listing service. For example, let's say you have a celebrity that wants to sell their house, but they don't want it publicly marketed. They don't want pictures of the inside of their house all over the internet. They can choose to have their property marketed by you, but not being marketed to the general public. So what can you do with an MLS exempt listing? You can market it to the brokerage that you're in. You can market it to the agents that are affiliated with that brokerage. It's not just your office, it's the entire brokerage. Once a property is marketed to the public in any way, you have, again, like the rule says, one business day to have that property entered into the MLS. And remember, our listing agreement says that the seller can't market their own property. You can't market the property to the public if you're on MLS exempt status. Want to make sure you understand too that if you do an MLS exempt or office exclusive listing, you must comply with MLS rules and regulations. Now, I'm not going to go into all the rules of all the MLSs across the state or even the three here in the upstate, Western Upstate, Greenville, and Spartanburg, okay, because each one of those has different rules. I will say in my main MLS, the Greenville MLS, within 48 hours of an MLS exempt or office exclusive listing being signed, this document must be sent to the Greenville MLS to have on file. The whole entire listing agreement must be sent to the MLS within 48 hours of seller signature to show that you are doing an MLS exempt listing or office exclusive listing. So the MLS must have a copy of the MLS exempt listing agreement. Now, I've already said one reason. One reason may be because of a celebrity that wants to sell their house. What are some other reasons that people would do an MLS exempt listing? Well, there are some people that need to do repairs. Repairs are in process, and the seller wants you to begin the process of selling the property. This could be a new construction property. This can be a person that's a seller that wants you to go ahead and begin marketing it, and they're in the process of changing all the carpet or making repair, whatever the case may be, but they just want you to get the time frame started. Here at Berkshire Hathaway, we're a fairly large company with over 400 agents, so chances are one of our agents could have a buyer for that particular property that would bring an offer with terms and conditions that were acceptable to the seller, and they never had to market the property publicly or put it on MLS, that we actually would have a buyer for that particular seller while they're doing repairs. It could be because you need to get photos, that the house wasn't ready for photos and the seller asked you to begin working on their behalf, right? You're hiring photographers, you're setting up stagers, you're getting inspections, you're managing the property in some way. Let's go on for another reason. That's the holiday season. Some people do not like their property being listed to the general public or having people walk through their property in holiday time for, around the Thanksgiving or Christmas holidays or whatever holiday you celebrate. They just don't like that. So you can have an MLS exempt or office exclusive listing, so it's not marketed to the general public throughout the holiday season, and just your brokerage agents showing that property. That could help them. That could be good for them. And it could be personal reasons. Let's say there was a person that was disabled or something, and they just it was the difficulty for them showing their house. There's multiple reasons why people could do an MLS exempt or office exclusive listing. So what are the things that you can do with an office exclusive listing? Well, you can, again, market the property within the brokerage only within your brokerage. You can send a digital email or flyer to each agent within your brokerage or each agent within Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices C, Joyner Realtors. You can have a lockbox on the property. Now, it is my personal preference, if you have a lockbox on that property, that you utilize a call before showing or CBS code, and it's provided to only C. Joyner agents. Remember, other agents can't see this property. It can't be available for other agents to see. So a call before showing code on your MLS box will limit just to C. Joyner agents. That's my personal and humble opinion. You can hold a realtor open house for C. Joyner agents only. I think I've made my point. No marketing outside of our brokerage firm. What are some of the things that you cannot do? Well, we've already talked about it. You cannot place this listing or your listing on any social media of any kind. Off internet, don't do it. Stay away from it. Your seller can't do it. You can't do it. You can't send an email or a flyer to other agents outside of C. Joyner. You can't have a sign on the property at all, because that's publicly marketing. You can't advertise in any sort of printed form or media at all. So just make sure that you follow these guidelines. So how do you dissolve an MLS exempt listing? Meaning the seller has done everything they wanted to do, it's ready for photos, they're ready to get it on the MLS. Well, it's always been my personal and professional opinion that an MLS exempt listing is only timed or signed for the time frame needed for that particular situation. Okay? If it needs to be a 6-month MLS exempt listing for whatever the personal reasons are, so be it. But if you knew that the seller only needed 2 or 3 weeks to have the property repaired, inspected, or whatever the case may be, painted, photos, and things like that, that your exempt listing shows a 3-week listing agreement. That's my personal opinion. Check with your broker, but my personal opinion is you only do it for the time frame needed. So dissolving it, how would you do that? Well, we can't have 2 listing agreements in place. We can't have an off MLS or MLS exempt listing agreement in place while we have a regular MLS listing agreement in place that's going to be entered in the MLS. Okay? So what we need to do is, remember I said that the listing agreement, the MLS exempt listing, is on file at the MLS. You must send that documentation into the MLS. Okay? So once the seller decides, hey, I want to go on MLS on Friday, and you're still within your MLS exempt listing agreement, at that point on Friday, what you as a selling agent need to do is you need to have the seller sign a conditional release of listing from listing agreement. It's SCR Form 250. They need to sign that release, which releases the MLS exempt listing, and they need to sign a brand new listing agreement showing that it's going to be on MLS. Now, your broker may tell you to do something different. I have always been of the belief that we should have a brand new listing agreement because you're now going to be publicly marketing that property. Brand new listing agreement, clean from that date to whatever date that you're going to have the listing agreement for. You sign a brand new listing agreement, and then what you need to do is you need to have your ASC or you need to send that conditional release and the new listing agreement to the MLS. Okay? So remember, when we first initially listed for MLS exempt or office exclusive, we had to send the listing agreement to MLS within 48-hour time frame after seller signature. When you go to dissolve it, in order to put it into the MLS, you have a conditional release, Form 250, and you have the new listing agreement. You send both to the MLS so they can remove that MLS exempt listing agreement from their file, and now they see that it's been listed and you're in compliance, full compliance with listing on the MLS, showing that your seller wanted that to happen. Now, let me just stop and say, I'm sure there's probably going to be some questions. Please make sure that you get with your broker and make sure that if you have any questions, get with them, find out exactly how they want you to handle these things. I'm telling you from the perspective of the policy and procedure of the Greenville MLS. There may be different in Anderson or Spartanburg. Get with your broker. But I want you to understand that these type of listings, MLS exempt listings or office exclusive listings, are not necessarily preferred by the real estate industry as a whole. Okay? There's a lot of things that have happened in the past with people having a so-called pocket listing and with the intent to get both sides of the sale and commission, with the intent to list that property to get the full listing amount rather than cooperating with other brokers. That's where it becomes an ethical violation, which is the reason why typically off MLS listings are not preferred by the industry as a whole. Now again, there is reasons for these things that can be great for the seller. Okay? That's what we want. There should never be an intention to list a property office exclusive for you as a listing agent to get both sides of the commission at all. That becomes a ethical violation, and we want to avoid that at all cost. When you list an office exclusive, it is specifically for what the seller needs to have done or for what the seller is requiring and requests you to do. You must make sure, though, the client understands that an MLS listing will majorly limit the client's exposure of his or her property to the market, which could be detrimental to the client's financial position in the negotiation. Okay? So if you limit it to only a small amount of brokers or agents within the firm, rather than the mass amount of agents, that could limit their financial position, meaning they may not get an offer that they may have wanted to taken from an agent outside the company. So there are limitations to having an office exclusive or MLS exempt listing. But there are always exceptions to every rule, meaning this may be good for some and not others. You must, and I implore you, you must take these on a case-by-case basis only. I am of the belief that if you have a seller that wants to get their property listed, but they don't want to list until a certain time, I'm of the belief that you should absolutely let them know about the MLS Clear Cooperation Office Exclusive listing. I wouldn't walk away from a listing agreement. I wouldn't at all. I would want to have that listing agreement signed. So you have that option, you have that opportunity, and if they're not comfortable with getting a property on the market right now because they have to paint or whatever, you can use this. This is a great thing for you as a listing agent and a lot of times a seller to be able to get their property ready for market. I hope this has helped, and I wish all of you a wonderful, fantastic real estate day.